Assalamu alaikum, dear viewers. I'm Dr. Masbah Uddin, holistic healer, life coach, neuro-linguistic programming and wellness expert, motivational speaker. Today, we have a very special guest who is always an inspiring teacher for his students, multifaceted and dynamic leader of the society, father of two beautiful daughters, husband to a very supportive and caring doctor, and he is also founder of Jiva Natural Foundation for Child Health. He is a leading pediatrician, consultant, and head of the Department of Pediatrics, Kiali Ayurveda Hospital and Medical Research, Kiali Academy of Higher Education and Research, Karnataka, India. He is none other than Professor Dr. Aziz Arwar. I wholeheartedly welcome you, sir, in today's session.
Thank you.
Dear friends, remember, the quality of your harvest depends on the quality of seeds you sow. If you want to have a qualitative harvest, you have to sow qualitative seeds. Similarly, if you want you and your children to live a healthier, happier and energetic life, you have to take care of your immunity. So, today we'll know different important aspects of immunity in children. Let's start. So, first of all, I would like to ask you how one easily can understand immunity.
Well, Dr. Masbah, you asked a very important question because many of us do not know on how immunity basically works and what exactly immunity is. Let us look at the organization of our entire body. We have body, and this body is made up of different organs, like we have hand, we have legs, we have heads. And each organ is having its own tissues. There are muscles, there are bones. And if you look into tissues, each tissue is made up of a cell. And a basic functional unit, which is this cell, what you call it in medical language as a cell, which is a basic, it's like a brick in the entire home. And this cell works on using three important tools. One is air that we breathe, water that we drink, and food that we eat. What basically happens is it uses all the three and produces energy, and this energy we make use for our daily living. Metabolism going inside the body, we breathe, heart is beating, we move around, we do so many things around, and whatever the energy that a cell needs is derived from all the three. If you look into the process, in the process of making energy, there are a lot of waste products that are generated in the cell, which need to be kept on removing from the human body. Otherwise, once they accumulate, now what would happen is, body starts showing different signs and symptoms. So during this process, right, when the body is trying to clean up these waste products, this process itself is called as immunity in general, if a layman has to understand, right? So what we see today in today's scenario, if you look into the modern world, what we understand is the food that we eat is not that optimum like how it used to be earlier, maybe some 1,500 years back. If you look into air, the air pollution has gone very high. If you look at the water, the contamination of water is progressively increasing. So the basic functional unit that is required for a functionality of a cell is not at the optimum level. Now you can understand such amount of junk goes into the cell. Now whatever the energy that is needed to function optimally, most of us do not have that energy. Since there is so much of contamination in the basic units, there is a lot of waste product that is being generated. And you can see so much of waste cannot be cleared by the body cell. So what has to happen is these waste start accumulating inside the body. And that is the reason earlier diseases were plague, tuberculosis, cholera. But today if you see, cancers are coming up, diabetes, hypertension, obesity, so many bone issues, a lot of other newer diseases have come up. And all of them can be directly or indirectly can be correlated to this in addition to the lifestyle that we live today. So what has happened in toto is the clearance of the waste product has gone down, free radical injury has gone up, energy has come down. So in total, the capacity of the human body to fight whenever there are instances, for example, there is an infection, I need to fight it back. Now I do not have that energy to fight that infection. Now if there is some exposure that happens, that easily comes and sits in my body and accumulates inside the human body. Now all this leads to two things. One is a very quick acquisition of a disease in the body and a very delayed fight of the body towards this disease. And this process of fighting back to a disease or resisting a disease is what we call it as immunity.
Thank you very much, sir. So next, I would like to know that why immunity is so important in children.
Yes, as I said, children especially who are under 5 years. Now, what would happen is they do not have their immune system so very well developed. In Ayurveda, we understand that it is the process where dhatus are still being built up, the tissues are still being built up. So, in children who are especially under 5 years, whatever the immunity that they have is through the mother, because what would happen is initial almost for 2 years mothers are breastfeeding, and through the breast milk a lot of antibodies go in, so they do not have an active immunity but the immunity that is given through the mother. Then we have a vaccine schedule that comes up, and ultimately what would happen is some specific diseases are covered by giving vaccines. But at this phase, if the child is unable to fight back, now what would happen is the process of his growth and development gets hampered. And you can imagine in a society which is so fast paced, the world is moving in a very rapid pace today. A lot of competitive, this is rather a world of competitive. I do not know how good it is in terms of its growth, but there is a lot of competition in the society. Now, in such condition, if the child does not have a good immunity, he will not be able to cope up in terms of his health, in terms of both physical and mental health, and ultimately he would start suffering through getting succumbed to many of the circumstances that he will pose through.
Yes, thank you. So next, that last 2 years throughout the world is going through that pandemic, that COVID-19. So now, what are the factors responsible for decreasing immunity in children?
Okay, I think we already discussed this point, Dr. Masbah, where we noted down the environmental factor, which is a very important thing. But another important thing that has to be kept in mind, parents play a very important role in this scenario. When I talk about immunity, it is not only about the physical immunity. Immunity is not contributed just by how you build up the physique. Immunity has both mental component and a physical component together. Right? There are rather 4 important pillars to get an optimum health or an optimum immunity. Number 1 is the nutrition. Of course, nutrition has been, now we know that the term food is replaced by fast food. Right? Now we don't have time to sit and enjoy the food. Right? We are so busy that we hardly care about what we are eating. Now, many of us just chew, but very few are there who enjoy what is basically getting inside. So number 1 is the mind inside what we are doing here in terms of food is not at all applied. So food has to be thought, balanced and productively kept. Number 1. Number 2 is how well one is exercising. There is a very good saying that says that if you take care of your body for 1 hour a day in 24 hours, your body will take care of next 23 hours. So exercise is something that's very important. There is something called as a tough love. If you're tough with the body becomes tough. Right? And then the third thing is the sleep pattern. Right? Now, children of course have a longer sleep. For example, a newborn baby sleeps about 18 to 20 hours. Then eventually for an adult that comes to about 7 to 8 hours. So child has to be given that optimum amount of sleep in terms of resting the body, because it is that time when the rejuvenation basically happens. Right? And then fourth thing, the last point that is important is the positive mental attitude. Now, a negative mind would basically have negative thought process, and that start impacting the health in a larger sense. And as you know, the thought process is basically through what we see, what we hear and what we speak. But if you just check as to what we are doing throughout the day through all these 3 measures, that will also give us a sense as to how positive and how negative I am. A negative component has to be eventually converted into a positive component. If you balance all the 4 pillars that we spoke just now, that will definitely train children, because children learn it very fast. It's difficult to train adults, but children are so intelligent, so powerful their brains are. If you direct their energy in the right way, rather they use it in a perfect way.
Yes, thank you so much, sir. One question, can you tell a formula that to boost immunity in the children?
Now, boosting immunity, like I told you, you need to be, it is not one thing. It is not one thing. It is a combination of many things. I told you, just now what we spoke about is exactly the same thing. Sleep well, eat well, exercise well and have a good mental attitude. Now, this is what is basically put in. But as you rightly said, a lot of parents also come and ask, sir, please give us a prescription to boost immunity. But there comes the role of what you call the body's nourishment, basically. Right? Now, proteins are considered to be the basic immune component of the body. Now, each individual who is there, for example, somebody is weighing 20 kg, he needs 20 grams of protein. Somebody who is weighing 30 kg needs 30 grams of protein. But if you look into a scenario, almost close to 70-80% of the population is deficient in protein. Now that is what basically makes the immunity. Now if we make our foods rich of protein, given it is not that when I say protein you give it excessively. No, you need to give what is exactly required by the body so that the body can synthesize it and then make use of it and then build immunity in a right way. For example, a lot of proteins are present in soya, a lot of protein is present in green gram, rather all dals we have, most of the grams they contain protein, exactly. Egg has protein. Those who are non-vegetarians, they do get a good amount of protein. But we need to balance. Proteins are the one thing that we basically need to look into it when you are boosting immunity.
Yes, sir. So actually that parents should play a wonderful role, but I want to ask you that what should be the parents' role in maintaining positive health of their children?
Exactly. Now, parents are rather the role model for children. They grow up looking at us. Most of the parents, what we see is they only guide children, but they don't practice what is being guided. For example, we see that they want their children to wake up early in the morning, but the parents are not off the bed early in the morning. They want children to exercise, but we see that parents themselves are not performing. Now, whenever you want to set a right example, for example, I set a rule to my children, I should be the first one to follow those rules so that I give them a right example. Right? So parents, we play a very good role, but please understand our influence on children is very little, close to some 10-20% is influence of parents. But as long as we have this opportunity, we should make a very strong impact on children by following the right path so that they know that whatever I am seeing is the right model for me and I can follow that.
Yes. Thank you so much for your question, sir. Last, your message to the society.
Okay. See, building up a healthy society, it is not the role of government alone or the lawmakers alone. It is me and you, as an individual who can contribute to the growth of the society in a positive sense. We need to understand our responsibility. We need to understand the responsibility that we share. How much we can care to the individual's growth. Because many of the times we are just an observer or audience. Right? Now you need to know that it's my role. Wherever there is a correction needed, that I jump in and do the correction and guide them in the right way. Wherever we can make an impact. Rather, education is not a challenge today. We find that education has pierced through almost every nook and corner of the world. Most of the people are highly educated. Now we need to make this education in the right sense, educate wherever the need is there, and then help the society in making it stronger and making it grow in a positive sense.
Thank you so much, sir, for your valuable time and patience attending over here. I express my sincere gratitude to you, sir. Dear viewers, remember, knowing plus not doing is equal to not knowing. You know something, but you don't inculcate or implement that in your practical life. That means you don't know that. So what information today we came to know, just try to implement in your life and your children's life as well and make a beautiful society. Thank you very much. We'll see in the next another episode. Allah Hafiz.